Hey guys, and welcome back. So we have yet another scandal that's popping up involving our favorite leading liberal presidential candidate, Lee Jae-myung. And this time it doesn't exactly involve a death, but it involves the death of a career, namely a prosecutor who looks like he was trying to be one of the good guys, doing good, trying to work for justice and fighting within the system to make it happen, only to be blocked by his boss, a senior prosecutor, and the powers that be there. And so just the other day, he resigned in protest, and that's bringing up a lot of attention to this scandal that Lee Jae-myung most likely thought that he had been able to cover up a few months ago. So this involves a football team, the Seongnam FC. And it is a football team that I guess is good. It plays in the top tier of all of the football teams here in Korea, and Korean people are very proud of their football, or soccer for you Americans. And this team is in the city of Seongnam, which was the city where Lee Jae-myung was mayor. And this involves a time period when he was mayor, and it involves about $16 million that allegedly they were able to shake down from corporations, just like the Soon-shil scandal involving sports, going around to corporations saying like, oh God, our advertising budget for our football team is so low. It's only about $900,000. And then they got like about $16 million. And lo and behold, they didn't really use it for advertising, and they don't know where the money went, but they collected all of this money, and then the thinking is that it went towards business favors. And so, again, this kind of like corruption and this kind of like clever system. I mean, this guy was busy. I mean, if you're talking about running a city, I guess that's in Korea, that is part of the job. You're trying to always figure out like, okay, we're running the city. Like, we are gonna bring in the sports team to the city, because this sports team, because you're wondering, like, what's the connection to the mayor and how does the mayor have control over it where he can kind of suck out the advertising budget? I was just like, yeah, how is that possible? The sports team, the football club, was bought by the city. Yeah, I didn't know the city could actually just buy the football team, but that's what they did. And so the football team was controlled by the city, and the way that, of course, in Korea, I guess, the emperor's at the top, so they're thinking that, okay, the man at the top, the mayor, basically was able to orchestrate this scheme to basically suck out $16 million and then do whatever he wanted to with it, because it really didn't go into advertising. Now, this case apparently was somewhat resolved last fall before this presidential campaign got into earnest. It was being investigated by the Seongnam Police Department, and of course we all know from the SJM case how the police department goes. And so the police said that, no, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong here, it's okay, it's all good. But then the person that was complaining, saying like, no, there's corruption, just like SJM's father, where if he was not happy with the way that the police handled the situation and determined the situation, they were able to send it over to the prosecution. So that's what they did. So it's been sitting in the prosecutor's office, also in Seongnam, which of course Mr. Lee Jae-myung would have influence in. And so one of the prosecutors who was assigned to this case seemed to be really like, yo, there is something here. We need to investigate. Let's investigate. But apparently he has been cock-blocked everywhere he has been going, just railroaded and not been able to make a lot of progress. And apparently his direct boss was a prosecutor who was involved with attacking Yoon Suk-yeol. So politically, she's already aligned against Yoon Suk-yeol, so she is totally in the Lee Jae-myung camp. So what is she gonna do? She's gonna like investigate her own like bread and butter? So most likely that not gonna go anywhere, of course. And so this guy was just like, I tried every single avenue. This is what he said publicly. I tried all roads, couldn't do anything. I'm quitting. So basically that's like, you know, he's basically saying like, I'm done here, death of that career. And so he is boldly and courageously taking a stand for what he believes to be right. And now to the public, who's just kind of thinking like, you know, there's just way too much smoke always with this guy, and it looks super suspicious. And the thing is that Korean people are too close to corruption in their everyday lives that they know it when they see it. And so this again, you know, despite a lot of other wordsmithing from the liberal side's camp, does look like there is something there. Now, this Seongnam FC, this football club, well, first of all, I really can't watch organized sports in Korea because the match fixing is just way too obvious. Like in baseball, especially when I'm at a baseball game, and I hardly go because it's just so obvious. Like I literally saw like this one guy, he got the ball and he was easily able to throw it to get somebody out. But then he was just like, uh-oh, I'm not supposed to, you know, he's supposed to lose on purpose. And then he was like kind of like checking in with like probably his co-conspirators on the team. Like, what am I supposed to do? I was just like, this is not sports. Like, why would I want to watch your lazy butt just cheat and try to like, you know, match fix for somebody who is probably betting on this? And why am I sitting here wasting my time? This is so unwatchable. It is not even sports. So there has been a lot already of proven, prosecuted cases of match fixing and corruption within baseball. It's probably not much any different from football. But why I bring up Seongnam FC, especially in relation to our candidate Lee Jae-myung, is that it is very sketchy. I had no idea. It has a sketchy past. So you know how they bought it? You know who they bought it from? They bought it from the Moonies cult. Yeah, you know, it's hard to say, but like some people who are not that familiar with Korea, or Korean people, or even Asian people, somewhere in the back of their mind, they kind of know about the cult of Asian people who say they're Christians, and somehow they're like proliferated around the world. And are they called the Moonies? Yeah, they're called the Moonies because the founder was Moon Sun-myung, or Sun-myung Moon. Moon is the last name. And so they are the ones who do the mass weddings. They're the ones that are accused of being a cult. And they created essentially like a business conglomerate to support the Unification Church. So their conglomerate is called Tongil, and also the Unification Church, is also Unification Church. And so it's like the opposite. Usually like a corporation would probably have a charitable arm. No, in this case, the church itself had the arm of like a corporation to fund its activities, and it went around the world doing all sorts of weird stuff in terms of investments. It bought the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan. You know, that's why that place looks creepy now. It bought the Washington Times. And I didn't know this. it owns United Press International. It's one of the biggest wire press services, like Reuters, Associated Press, and sometimes in the same sentence you'll put UPI, but I'm not doing that anymore. Maybe just AFP, Reuters, Associated Press, maybe Bloomberg. And so, but I was shocked. And so their reach is huge like that. And then apparently, and they're kind of like, really sly. They're like in those like kind of like big businesses that you don't know about. Like apparently they're totally in like the sushi trade. So like if you're eating a lot of sushi in the United States, like they're probably doing the wholesale to all of the restaurants when you're eating that sushi. I was like, dang. So they owned this football team and they sold it to Lee Jae-myung's government when he was the mayor. Now, why did I bring that up? Because like in that video that I did about the psychopathic signs and traits that may show up in that letter or in that diary entry that Lee Jae-myung wrote when he was a youth, and in his dream it said he went to a mass wedding. That really raised some red flags to me because I was like, geez, that sounds like he, has some sort of exposure or experience to like this moon cult, but I've never heard anything in relation to him and the moon cult and all of that. And so I was just like, I don't know about that. And so I just kind of like, let that go. But now I'm thinking, wait a minute, is there a real tie? And a tie that goes way back. Maybe his family was part of it. Maybe people around him were part of this thing. Because like who in their dream just writes about like, oh yeah, we went to a mass wedding ceremony. And that was like the girl that he was dreaming about. Super creepy. And there are a lot more cults, a lot more people involved in these cults than you would imagine in Korea. And speaking of wire services and these cults and mass weddings, I was shocked, actually. When I was working in the news business, or even like after I think I left, there was one girl that I was an acquaintance with, and she worked for one of the big ones, and she posted a picture one day of her saying that she was at a friend's wedding, but it was one of those mass cult weddings. And I was just like, what the heck are you doing there? Of course, no reply, like nothing, like as if it was nothing wrong with it. I was just like, oh my God, even somebody in that sort of position is just going to these weddings and maybe is part of this world and is not saying anything about it. That's how much of an infiltration they have. So now I'm very concerned that, with this election, are we just going to hand South Korea over to the cults? Because on the liberal side, we may very well just be handing over South Korea and the keys to the Blue House to the Mooney cult, or on the right with Yoon Suk-yeol, we may be just handing over the keys to the shamanistic cult, or maybe even like, with his Daegu ties, that Shincheonji cult that was like, really up in the news early on with the whole, cerveza thing about like spreading it. And so this is crazy. And not only that, this cult on the Mooney side, these people are very pro-North Korean. They personally get invited by the North Korean leadership and the family. They have good relations with the North Korean ruling family. They make cars for North Korea, and they are essentially like, they are like the commies. And so they are so like, what are we gonna, that is like a scary thought. So in any event, we do know that there are a lot more investigations needed into Lee Jae-myung that have been blocked or barred, that haven't been given its full due course, involving this Seongnam FC, this football club. Also, the land development scandal where people left and right every week are being thrown in jail because they are guilty. And we still haven't found out why that third man mysteriously went to another world in that motel room. We still don't know. Just an update on the debate. So you know how An Chol-soo was shut out by Yoon Suk-yeol and Lee Jae-myung? Well, An Chol-soo made a bit of a ballsy move. He sued the networks and said like, look, this is wrong. This is like a suppression of like freedom of speech or something constitutional. And the courts sided with him actually and said that, no, if you guys want to do a presidential debate, you're going to have to include An Chol-soo and the number 4 candidate, Shim Sang-jung. You know how like she was just like saying like, I'm being ignored so much. And so they're planning on most likely having a 4-way debate at the end of this month or early next month. But still, they're trying, the two prima donnas, they're trying to get just a debate of their own. Now, the thing that is interesting in the political calculus in relation to Lee Jae-myung is that a lot of these really high-profile corruption cases and allegations and just scandals have popped up. And if he was able to have had that debate, because the debate was supposed to be this week, like basically today or tomorrow, or maybe even this weekend, but that's all canceled because they got to replan it, do the 4-way debate and move the schedule back. He would have been able to most likely use his power of speech and his comedic timing. And I'm telling you, I mean, like, for all the stuff that, like, you know, I do not like Lee Jae-myung, but that man can perform, man. Like, he knows how to, like, get that camera, like, speak and just, I say, just perform through his teeth. And that would have been a perfect opportunity for him to knock down all of these allegations and all of these scandals and then kind of like reframe the debate, which he's so good at, but he doesn't get to do that. He lost that platform. He's losing that timing. He's losing that momentum. So in that sense, that was a super, super powerful move by An Chol-soo. And then for Yoon Suk-yeol, I know he's kind of like chomping at the bit to probably like try to prove himself that he could do a debate, but he ain't good at debating. No, everybody's just waiting for him to just like make another slip up. It's just more of like, let's just hold on to the edge of our seat and just hope he doesn't kind of mess up if you are on his side. Because the guy cannot debate. Apparently in one situation with the speech, like the prompter went off and he just stood there for minutes, couldn't say anything. But, you know, Lee Jae-myung would be like, prompter, no prompter, he'd just be able to, like, you know, probably do a whole musical if he had to. All right, guys, so just add another to the list, a strange bribery allegation involving millions of dollars and a football team formerly owned by a cult, a worldwide cult. What do you think of all of this? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.